I'm Peggy Peck, MedPage Today, and we're less than 24 hours from the opening of this year's AHA Scientific Sessions here in New Orleans. I'm talking today with Dr. Gordon Tomaselli, who is program chair this year at Scientific Sessions, and Dr. Mariell Jessup, who is vice chair. And we're going to talk a little bit about what will be making news this year at AHA Scientific Sessions. And to start with, I'd like to say that a lot of the talk already in the hallways, as people line up to get their registration materials, is about prevention. Primary prevention and secondary prevention. So I'm wondering, Dr. Tomaselli, if you could comment about this prevention focus.
Well, thanks, Peggy. I think it's fair to say that prevention is going to be a focus of this meeting. And in fact, at the opening session tomorrow, Dr. Tim Gardner, who's the president of the American Heart Association and a surgeon, will be talking about cardiac prevention. His talk will be followed by the Connor Lecture, which is by Dr. Darwin Labarth from the CDC, who will also be talking about prevention. There are a number of late-breaking clinical trials, and in fact, many of those trials are going to deal with prevention in some way, shape, or form. So, for example, tomorrow, Sunday, the Jupiter trial will be presented. That's a trial that's going to look at the role of high-sensitivity CRP in predicting who requires a statin for primary prevention of cardiac events. In addition, the JPAD trial will be discussed. That's a trial that's looking at the role of aspirin in prevention of coronary events in patients with diabetes. The SEARCH trial is a large clinical trial that's looking at a number of things, including statins as well as homocysteine-lowering agents and their role in cardiac prevention. And finally, tomorrow, the Physician's Health Study 2 will be discussed. And that's a look at the antioxidant vitamins E and C and their role in prevention of cardiac disease in patients who are actually at pretty low risk, so a primary prevention cohort.
So, Dr. Jessup, in addition to this focus, an interesting focus on prevention, I noticed when I'm looking through the program book that you've designed this meeting, you and Dr. Tomaselli, with some very interesting and very what appears to be provocative discussions, plenary discussions, addressing issues like bias in research and should we have statins in the water, of all things. I'm wondering if you could just comment on why you designed this way, it strikes me as an interesting design.
Well, Peggy, I think that there's an incredible amount of interest in how to interpret all of the trials that are coming out that have so much press interest and conversations. And we thought it would be really important for individuals to understand the hard work and the decision making that goes behind these trials, and to put it into perspective, and how bias is handled in the course of a trial, and how difficult decisions and difficult findings are dealt with, so that so many things that our patients come in and ask us about, we're a little bit better equipped to handle.
So let me ask now, each of you intimately involved in the planning for this meeting. We'll start with you this time, Dr. Tomaselli. What's your favorite? What would you say is if you had to single down to a single area or a trial, the results that are being reported, what comes to mind to you?
Well, I think certainly the biggest buzz is about the Jupiter trial and whether or not this is going to be a paradigm shifting, and I hate to use that term, but paradigm shifting approach, looking at instead of lipids, for example, and markers of inflammation as something to use as a strategy to start to treat people with statins, and that dovetails nicely with the statins in the water plenary session, because if indeed there's yet another marker that defines people who are going to respond to statins, well then, you know, Katie bar the door, there may well be statins in the water if we don't watch it.
So, and Dr. Jessup, what about you?
Well, besides wondering whether we'll all be taking a poly pill, which is another way of talking about statins in the water, of course I'm interested in heart failure, and the Tuesday late-breaking clinical trials are a lot about heart failure. In particular, HF Action, which is a study looking at the role of exercise training in heart failure, is, I think, very important. Heart failure is an epidemic in this country and worldwide now, and exercise doesn't involve taking a pill, so we'll be interested to know how that study comes out.
So instead of statins in the water, exercise for everybody, perhaps?
Probably both.
Yes, okay. So, we're, as I said, less than 24 hours from the opening of Scientific Sessions, but tomorrow we'll be back with real numbers from actual clinical trials. I'm Peggy Peck, MedPage Today.